In this video, we're going to be talking about 7 red flags that you should avoid whenever you're sourcing for your Amazon arbitrage business. Hi guys, my name is Kendi and I'm currently a 6-figure Amazon seller. And on this channel, I'm tracking my progress on becoming a 7-figure seller. And in the process, I'm sharing tips and tricks that I'm learning with you guys so that you guys could probably use some of the stuff I'm learning within your business to grow and becoming a bigger and a better Amazon seller. Okay, so the first red flag that I like to avoid whenever I'm sourcing is Amazon. I don't like to get onto listings where Amazon is selling on those listings because it becomes really hard to beat Amazon at its game. Amazon will always give itself priority over the buy box. Not always, but like I would say about over 90% of the time, Amazon will have the buy box will be in control of the buy box. So it makes it really hard for you to win the buy box to make sales, and ultimately if you are on a listing that Amazon is on, chances are your sales will be a lot slower if you even get any sales. And even if you try to dip below Amazon's price, in some cases, I would say in most cases, Amazon will still prioritize themselves on the buy box and keep the buy box even though you may be lower, right? In some cases. Other cases, you can compete against Amazon, but for the most part, stay away from listings that Amazon is on, like this one for example, especially if they're never off of the listing. This particular listing, you can see that Amazon's been on it for the past 3 months. And they've only went out of stock or came off of the listing for a very short amount of time. It seems that they're right back. So for about a day they came off. That's it within the past 3 months. And one other thing you can do here to really see what happens when Amazon is on here is to look at the buy box statistics. And before you even look into the buy box, let's just verify that there is a buy box on the listing. As you can see here, there has been a buy box on the listing consistently for at least the past 3 months. And you can see that if we go to data, buy box statistics, you can see here who is in control of the buy box most of the time. And in this case, you can see that for the past 30 days, right here, range in days, 30 days, Amazon has been in control of the buy box 69% of the time. So that's the reason I avoid listings that Amazon is on, right? And the other 10%, Zappos, which is another pretty big brand, their lifetime review is over 400,000, so that they're huge. So that's another monster to compete with, and generally their price is going to be a lot lower, as you can see here, 53. So there's probably no profit on this. Is a overall bad listing to be on at this point. Let's go back to the chart. And another thing you want to check too sometimes is the lifetime that Amazon's been on here, and you can see we've extended it to 1 year down here. And for the whole course of the year, Amazon has been on this. So this is definitely, for me, a no, and it's a red flag. I would stay away from this listing. Other cases that Amazon may appear on a listing can be something like this, where you may come onto a listing where Amazon has been on the listing in the past, but currently within the past 3 months, past month and a half, they've been off of the listing. And you may be wondering, is this good? Possibly good, but before I make that decision, I would look into extending the graph. So in this case, we're going to extend it to a whole year. And in this case, you can see for the course of the year, Amazon has barely been on this listing. So based on that, I would continue to look into this. I could already tell this is not a bad listing to be on, because looking down at the seller movement, I can see great seller movement, the blue graph down here. There's good seller movement on there. So the buy box is being shared. Price is fairly consistent over the past 3 months, and then the BSR is quite low. So this is a good one. I would definitely go on to this listing if I could find this item low enough to be able to make a profit on there, right? So red flag number one, avoid listings that Amazon has too much control of. All right, so for red flag number two is going to be slow moving products, and you can tell that by looking at the Keepa. A good indicator will be is when you can see the sales rank climbing up like these. You can see here obviously that the sales rank is going up and staying up for a while and then dropping, drop, and then it goes up high again. So when you can see this, generally this is a sign of a slow moving product. As you can see, if I go down to a month, you can see, like, for example, this one for the whole month probably just sold one time, and you have multiple sellers on here, 13 sellers, and this is barely even selling. So all these people on here aren't making any sales at all. Honestly, past 3 months it probably have sold for, you could even count it. When you can count it, you know it's a slow moving seller. So here, 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, 4 drop, 5 drop, 6 drop, 7, 8, 9, I'll say about 10 drops within the last 3 months. That is super slow. Stay away from this. Red flag number two, slow sales, slow moving sales, and high BSR. You can see the BSR here is over 400,000 in rank. That's super slow. Generally in most categories, top 1% is usually under 100,000 BSR. And I like to stay under top 1%. So especially if I could, my general products that I like to source are usually under 50K in sales rank, and occasionally I'll go up to around 100K, but usually I try to stay under 50K in most categories that I get into. Here's another example of a different product here that's moving slowly, and you can see the same condition here where the sales rank is climbing up. In this case, this one is going all the way up to 700,000 in rank. This is ultra slow moving, and all these people here are barely making any sales on this. During Q4 there was a good little drop in the sales rank. It was selling good for a little bit, but then after Q4, you can see it. Even during Q4, you can see the sales rank is still going pretty high. This is moving very slow for a Q4. Q4, you should be under 100K for most of your products, right? I'll say for all of your products that you're sourcing. But yeah, these huge climbs in sales rank is an indicator that this is moving very slow. So that's red flag number two, and that's how you can tell if something is moving slow just by looking at how high the BSR is going. Red flag number three is going to be bad seller rotation, and a good indicator of something with bad seller rotation is when you look at the Keepa, you'll notice the offer count graph, the one down below here, is staying stagnant for long periods of time. So this graph here is over 3 months, and you can see that the number of sellers doesn't move too much. Usually that indicates to me that this isn't selling, it's not going through sellers too fast. Like, a lot of people are not running out of stock fast. Therefore, usually if you go onto this listing, you may end up having your stock sit for longer than you want to, right? And in this case, you can see that, for example, there's been 8 sellers for this from, what is it, December 15 all the way to January 6th. For a whole month, the sellers didn't budge. So all those sellers sitting on there, I'm pretty sure not everybody is heavily stocked. So there's something causing the seller movement to be slow on here, and ultimately this is a red flag for me. I've been on listings like this before, and usually I end up the inventory I have for it will tend to sit for a long period of time, and eventually I'll just have to drop my prices to bare break even point, or sometimes even lose a little bit of money just to get rid of the inventory. So that's a red flag right there. The type of listings that I like to get onto tend to look like this right here, right? So for example, same scenario, 3 months, but you can see the seller count is consistently from 30, 30 to 40. When it goes up, that's not good, but you still see some dips, people coming on and off, on and off, on and off. So that means the sales are taking place, because if there is no sales, there wouldn't be anyone coming off. It'll just be sitting down. So especially periods like this, when you see the price going down, no, not the price, the offer going down like this, generally this is a very good sign, and you should probably go onto it if you can get it around that price. If it's a good if it's profitable for you around that time, right? So be aware of the seller movement when you are sourcing. Try to get something that has good seller movement. Red flag number 4 is going to be private label products, and you can indicate that too. First of all, private label products could be selling very well. Like in this case, you can see this is a great movement, but the key indicator of something's private label will be the seller count. In this case, you can see, if we go here, the second plot down below here, you see one seller the whole time on this listing. This is over a year. There's been one seller on here, and whenever there's another seller, it quickly drops back down to one seller again. That means this seller that came on here probably got kicked off, and every time somebody tries to jump on the listing, they get kicked off and could potentially get hit with the IP complaint from the brand owner. And also, you can see here, the buy box is owned by Big Bear Direct, and if you go up to the brand, you'll see the Big Bear store. So this is the brand owner selling this, and they do not want anyone else on their listing. If you do, first of all, you probably won't even be allowed to join it, but if you do, chances are you're going to get kicked off immediately, and you could potentially get hit with an IP complaint if this is an aggressive brand owner who is, trying to completely keep everyone off and isn't messing around with anyone. So stay away from one seller products like this, where you can see it's only one seller for an extended amount of time. Moving on to red flag number 5 will be IP complaints. So generally for IP complaints, I tend to have for IP complaints, the biggest indicator again will be seller count. And in this case, what you're looking for, the seller count, is drops like this right here, right? So if we go back here, first of all, this graph is 3 months as well, right? And in the seller offer count, you can see drop right about November 2nd. There were 24 sellers on the listing, and then the very same day they dropped down to 3. This type of drop is not normal. Usually there'll be a gradual drop, right? You might see something like this right here. This is a normal drop where you might drop 2 sellers at a time, 3, or even 1, but when you see a large drop like this, chances are Amazon kicked a bunch of these sellers off the listing and probably were reported for IP complaints. So that's a key indicator right there, and you don't want to be on listings like these because they could jeopardize your seller account whenever you receive an IP complaint. So this is one indicator that there's potential IP complaints on this listing. All right, so another indicator that the listing is prone to IP complaints is if you get this extension here. It's called IP alert. It'll alert you. As you can see, this little red alert thing pop up will come up on the page that suspect that this brand has potential IP complaints. That's another indicator, right? Number 6 is price tanking like this right here. You want to avoid products whenever you see it. If you can catch it in time and you're sourcing, you come across a graph like this where you have great seller movement on the bottom, on the offer count graph below. You have phenomenal seller movement over time. The BSR is relatively good. It's not too high. It's at a good amount. There's good movement. But the thing is, the price, you can see as the seller count, as the supply increases, the price goes down. Supply and demand, once the more supply you have of something, the price is generally going to go down. The more scarce it is, the price is going to go up. So whenever you see a graph that looks like this, where the supply is increasing, the offer count is going up, you generally will see the price going down. And in this case, this is a price tanking scenario. The price is being tanked. So if you do stock up on this, chances are by the time you get it in hand and ready to be shipped to Amazon, the profit margin that you calculated is going to be extremely low or even below profitability. Then chances are you might have to sell off at a loss or just sit and hold on to that inventory for months until all those sellers die off of the listing, and then the price goes back up and then you could offload it. So beware of price tanking on your listings, and just you can indicate that just based on the seller count increasing and the price going down overall. So that's red flag number 6. And the last and final red flag to avoid whenever you're sourcing will be brand generic listings like this one. I had gotten into trouble for it in the middle of Q4 last year, which had my account down. They took my account down for 30 days because they suspected that my products were inauthentic, because the brand I was listed on was a generic brand. So I had to prove to them that my listing was generic. I had to show them the source, where I got it from, and all that mess. And they eventually allowed me to sell again, get my account back up, and get my money from them, from Amazon. So yeah, beware. If you get the same extension IP alert, it will let you know by this yellow alert button that this brand is generic. And I would highly recommend, even though this was a phenomenal find, this was selling very good for me. The price was consistent overall, and I was selling this for quite some time. The seller movement on this was phenomenal. I actually had trouble staying in stock on this listing, but sadly, because it's a generic brand, I just had to forfeit. I don't want to take the chance again of getting my account shut down again, because I am on a listing that is generic and I'm not selling on the actual branded listing itself. And what I mean by that is, if we go to onto another Tree Hut brand, Tree Hut product, you could see here that this one is actually on the official Tree Hut. The brand itself is actually Tree Hut, and if you click on it, you should be brought to all the other Tree Hut products that is within the brand, right? So that's how you indicate whether the brand is generic, is literally by looking at what the brand name is of the product. Avoid generic brands in general. See, when you do go on a generic branded ASIN that has a generic brand, IP alert will automatically warn you the moment you get onto the listing with this pop-up right here. This brand on this listing is generic. Amazon has very strict guidelines about generic listing. Please ensure that this listing follows Amazon's terms before trying to list on this ASIN, so you don't get your account shut down. And when you do click on the brand generic, you'll see a whole bunch of different random products as opposed to the actual brand itself. When we clicked on the Tree Hut, the other listing, you saw all the other Tree Hut products come up. So that's how you tell if the listing is on a generic brand or not. So that's red flag number 7. With that being said, be careful when you're sourcing. Avoid these red flags whenever you're sourcing, so that way you get the best success of making sales and protecting your account from potential issues that you could get into. So without further ado, guys, I hope you guys stuck to the end of the video. I want to say thank you for all the new subs coming onto the channel. I'm happy that I'm able to help you guys in any way, form possible. Please sub to the channel if you guys want more content like this, and stay tuned as I continue to grow and share my progress with you guys. And until next time, guys, be easy, be breezy, and peace out.